municipalities. It's a crazy number. Yeah. A lot of redundant government. The county. Yeah. Yeah. But there are times when we go to tell. Sorry, I did. Yeah, yeah. In other words, you're right. I have no argument against you. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Chairman, to my right is Thomas Simpson. We have Howard Mosley to my right, and Mr. James Holfelder to my right as well. To my left is John Marconi and Pam Andrea to my left. Thank you. And with that, I'd like to call the first matter, Mr. Chair. Please. All righty. I call the matter of Alliance 3033 Market, LLC. Attention Max Ryan. From Bryn Mawr, Pennsylvania. This regards a piece of property that's 3033 Market Street, Aston, Pennsylvania. It is tax parcel 09-00-01944-00. It is, according to the application, it is zoned industrial. It is contains total land area of 709,505 square feet. 2.985 acres is lot 2 and 16.288 acres overall. With that, I'd like to call the representative of Alliance 3033 Market LLC. And I understand that we have counsel with us this evening. Mr.
Lewis.
Introduce yourself. How are you?
Yes, good evening. Craig Robert Lewis from Kaplan Stewart. Thank you. I'm counsel for the applicant this evening.
Well, thanks very much. Why don't you tell us what it is that the applicant wants to do?
Mark in advance for everybody.
Counsel, it is appreciated. Now, I understand that you handed in an exhibit, which was the affidavit of service. Is that correct, sir?
Yes,
It was signed by Deborah Arbuckle. Am I right?
that's correct.
All right,
From
so,
my
you're gonna-
office.
So that'd be your exhibit A without a number after it. Is that correct?
That would be wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Let the record reflect that we have the affidavit of service.
So good evening, again, Rob Lewis, Kaplan Stewart, and we represent the legal owner of the property at 3033 Market Street. I have handed to the board our pre-market exhibit packages. If you would permit me a moment or two, I'll try and do a very brief introduction. And while I do that, I typically will identify our exhibits for the record and just try and provide a very brief overview of the project so that we can get right to the heart of it for any direct testimony. By way of introduction on our side, I do have my team with us. To my immediate left is Max Ryan, an owner's representative. I also have with us our civil engineer, Joel Comanda from Inland Design, as well as our traffic engineer, Greg Richardson from Traffic Planning and Design. I don't necessarily intend to call all of my team on direct, but I always figure better to have them here in case there's any questions from the board that we didn't anticipate. That way, hopefully, somebody can answer any question that you may have. Turning to the exhibits in the package, Exhibit A1 is a copy of the deed to the property, evidencing my client's ownership and standing, obviously, then to proceed this evening. Applicant's Exhibit A2 is a copy of the form application that brings us here tonight. You'll note our request this evening is for a single dimensional variance, and that variance is from section 600-83.B.1, and that is a dimensional criteria in the I Industrial District requiring that any new driveway be separated by 250 feet from any existing intersection. Again, it's a requirement really only applicable in the I Industrial District. Exhibit A3 is an aerial photograph of the property. Exhibit A4 is an existing conditions plan. And if you combine A3 and A4 and take a look at those, you'll actually note the property, as was reflected by your solicitor on the record, is nearly 17 acres as it sits today. It's highly irregularly shaped, fronts on Market Street, and is generally surrounded on three sides by industrial uses, Market Street being the fourth side. The southern portion of the property is already developed with an approximately 116,000 square foot industrial and retail building and associated parking facilities and stormwater management facilities. Just south of that building and facility is the overpass where Market Street crosses over the railroad tracks. The existing building has access to Market Street by way of a single access point, and that access point is offset from the intersection, the signalized intersection with Meeting House Road, slightly to the south. Exhibit A5 is our site plan. Exhibit A5 is our site plan. This plan is actually part of a currently pending subdivision and land development application before the township. And that application proposes to subdivide the property into two lots. The first would retain the existing building and parking that we just discussed, and that property would be about 13 acres when all said, a little bit more than 13 acres when all said and done. The second lot, which we refer to as the northern lot, would encompass the northern, essentially undeveloped portion of the site. There is a small driveway with a few parking spots that I believe may have been used for some seasonal sales at one point, but otherwise this northern portion is wholly undeveloped. That is a bit more than, or right around 3 acres of ground. You'll note in Exhibit A5 that our proposal is to develop that lot for a 25,600. That was it. Thank you. Whoever was controlling the other sheet would be perfect. Thank you. Wonderful. Thank you. As depicted there on A5, the proposal is to develop that northern lot for a 25,600 square foot industrial with small retail component building, as well as its own parking facilities and stormwater management facilities. Again, our application for land development is pending. That application actually was filed back in November of last year. At the time we filed it in 2021, we actually proposed retaining the existing access into the existing building and simply constructing a new access for this building. our first round of reviews from the township actually brought to light some concerns with the existing configuration. Some of those concerns had to do with the operation of Meeting House vis-a-vis that access, which is in approximately this location you can see just south of that intersection. So the township's engineer and township's traffic engineer asked us to take another look at our access points and see what we could do and investigate other options. So we investigated moving that access point. We investigated consolidating the access points. And ultimately, after doing our full traffic analysis with our engineer and reviewing with the township's engineers, what we were able to propose is the configuration that you see now on applicant's exhibit A5, which is to significantly move the existing access point to the south to get it further away from Meeting House so that there's no congestion between vehicles trying to enter this existing driveway or this to the existing building to the south. It gives greater separation from the intersection, allows vehicles to make that turn, and also does not interfere with the existing stacking at the Meeting House intersection. And at the same time, we moved our intersection to the very, very northern edge of our property. One, to give the greatest separation possible between those two access points, and also the reason that we're here tonight, to separate our access point as much as possible from the intersection with Meeting House. There was also a concern at the southern access point that was addressed during that study, which was to make sure that traffic coming over the overpass, one, had adequate time to stop if there was traffic backed up at the intersection. It was determined that was not going to be an issue, and just verifying site distances. And as you will see in our traffic impact study, if you really have a case of insomnia and want to read through that traffic study, site distance is not an issue, nor is safe stopping distance. That traffic study I have included as applicant's exhibit A6. This plan, after resubmission, the plan is now A5, along with that traffic study. They were all resubmitted to the township and re-reviewed by the township's engineer. I've included that township engineer's review letter dated April 12th of 2022. That's applicant's exhibit A7. And those plans were then also reviewed by the township zoning officer, and I've included the zoning officer's review as applicant's exhibit A8. The engineer, as you'll note in that review, took no issue with the driveway locations, nor the traffic analysis. The zoning review is what actually brings us here tonight, because for the first time it noted the requirement that we have 250 feet from Meeting House to our new access to the north. Due to the configuration of our lot, which I think is pretty obvious from applicant's exhibit A5, it's not possible to actually achieve 250 feet from the Meeting House Road intersection to the northern portion of our lot. We've actually separated as far as we can, and we do not quite reach that 250-foot threshold. So again, that's what brings us here this evening, is a request for dimensional relief from that requirement, which is section 600-83.B.1. Again, I have with me this evening Joel Comanda from Inland Design, who I called to testify, and I do have Greg Richardson, our traffic engineer, who can back him up with any questions that the board may have. Unless you have any questions initially for me, I'll be happy to call Joel and ask him a few questions on the record. More important that you get on the microphone than me. All right.
Yes, would you please take the oath?
Joel David Comanda.
If you can, please state your name and business address for the record.
Joel Comanda. I'm an engineer with Inland Design at 16 Haggerty Boulevard, Westchester, Pennsylvania, 19382.
And how long have you been employed by Inland Design?
7 years at Inland Design.
Are you a licensed engineer in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania?
Yes, I've been licensed engineer for 18 years.
And are you familiar with the plans that I have marked this evening as applicant exhibit 4 and A5
Yes, both those plans were prepared by our office under my supervision.
You're also familiar generally with the property that's the subject of this proceeding.
Yes,
Have you previously testified or presented plans that you've prepared to municipal bodies, including zoning hearing boards?
yes, I have.
And have you been offered and accepted as an expert in civil engineering in this proceeding?
Yes.
Have you offered him as an expert in civil engineering?
Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Joel, if we take a look at applicants exhibits A3 and A4, there is a packet if you need it in front of you. In your own words, can you just very briefly describe the existing conditions of the property that's the subject?
You could flip back to the existing conditions plan up on the screen, please. Thank you. This is exhibit A4. As Mr. Lewis has already explained, the existing site, as you can see, is an irregularly shaped parcel, approximately 17 acres, located on the eastern side of Market Street, just north of the train tracks. The existing site has a single access located here, approximately 100 feet south of the intersection with Meeting House Road. The southern portion of the site is developed for an industrial warehouse use, which is consistent with the zoning and with the surrounding uses. The northern portion of the site, which is where we're looking to develop, is, as has been mentioned, currently primarily undeveloped. And that's more or less the existing state of the parcel today. And that can be seen, I'll just note on the exhibit A3, which is the aerial that we don't have on the screen, but you have in your packets. You can see the existing features. And I'll just note, the parcel to the north as well does have access off of Market Street right along its full frontage, which does get into, how we located the driveway.
Well, we flip that to exhibit A5. The overall proposed development.
Thank you. This is Exhibit A5, which is the site plan that has been prepared for this. It shows a subdivision of the parcel. We're focused in on the northern portion, which is just approximately 3 acres to be developed with a warehouse building, 25,600 square feet, associated parking and loading, stormwater management in the rear. The access for this is now shown at the northern boundary, as Mr. Lewis explained, and then in association with that, the relocation of the existing driveway, which was in this area. And if you can actually scroll down or reduce that a little bit, you can see the bottom portion of this exhibit. Yeah, there you are. The relocated driveway is located as far south as we were able to put it before site distance became an issue, because here's where you get into the railroad overpass. So, a site distance study was done to establish the optimal location for relocating that driveway, again, to maximize the driveway separation for this existing drive from the Meeting House Road intersection.
So in my initial discussion of the plan, I mentioned that A5 was a revised site design. Can you just describe briefly some of the other locations that were analyzed and why we this design?
Yeah, absolutely. The initial application showed the existing driveway located in this area being used as a single access point for the full site, with a drive and access for the new parcel coming off of that driveway in approximately this location. As has been mentioned, the township asked us to reconsider that because of the proximity of that driveway to the Meeting House Road intersection. We ran several sketches looking at trying to put the driveway more in this area, provide other access, but it really became difficult to have a buildable area on this lot with the driveway in this region. And so that's where we ended up at the north, providing the maximum separation that we were able to.
In your opinion, as engineer, is the relocation of the existing access, does that result in a better condition along Market Street than in?
Yes, I believe it does.
And with respect to the northern access, you know approximately how far that northern access is from the existing intersection of Meeting House?
Yeah, the proposed northern access is now 165 feet from the intersection with Meeting House.
The ordinance requires 250 feet, correct?
That is correct. The northern property line boundary for our site is located approximately 225 feet from the intersection, so that 250 feet is not possible within this site.
What other improvements are associated with the new driveway location?
Well, with the driveway locations, the northern driveway, you know, there's revisions to the curbing and sidewalk through this area. We are not proposing any signal upgrades, but one of the other benefits that this driveway location does provide is that there is an existing center turn lane for southbound traffic on Market that can be utilized to enter the site. So that does provide a benefit there.
So any vehicles heading southbound on Market Street will be able to exit the through lane, get into a left-hand.
That is correct.
In your opinion, will this northern access point have any detrimental impact on the intersection of Meeting House?
No, I don't believe it will.
And will the relocation of the access drive further south have impact on the operation traffic flow on Market?
No, I believe it will actually improve the situation over the existing location where there was some issues with traffic at the Meeting House Road intersection backing up over, you know, covering up that entrance during traffic times.
In your analysis, or since your design also included the internal design, in your opinion, will this new northern access location provide safe and efficient ingress and egress to that?
Yes.
Do you believe that if the board is inclined to grant evening, that impact on public health, safety?
No, I do not think so.
All I have for Joel, one or two questions from Mr. Richardson. Up to the board.
It is, yes.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, Robert Gregory Richardson.
Solemnly swear that the testimony you are about to give will
I do.
Richardson, can you please state with whom you're currently employed?
Yes, I'm a principal and executive vice president with traffic planning and design. I work currently out of our Pottstown office, but often move around. We have an office in Westchester, which is our closest office.
And are you a licensed engineer in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania?
I am.
For how long have you been licensed engineer in the Commonwealth?
26 years.
And you have routinely presented traffic analyses, and traffic studies in traffic engineering.
I have.
Mr. Richardson is an expert in traffic.
Thank you.
Mr. Richardson, you've heard a lot of background from Joel and myself, so I'd like to shorten your testimony as much as I can. I have shown you our exhibit package. Marked as applicant's exhibit A6 is a portion of a traffic analysis. Are you familiar with that traffic analysis and was it prepared by your office?
Yes, I am familiar with it. It's dated last revised March 18th, 2022.
Richardson, in addition to studying the impact of any of the traffic that might be generated by the proposal that Mr. Commander just discussed, what else was the study intended to analyze?
Much like most traffic studies, we try to make an assessment of the existing conditions. We do traffic counts at the intersections, the nearby intersections. We analyze those intersections based on the computer models that are afforded to us and required by most reviewing bodies, including this township and PennDOT, most notably because we are on a PennDOT road. It will require a PennDOT permit. The next step is to generate the traffic that is proposed, the anticipated traffic that the proposed land use will generate. And then you do another analysis and you conduct your own analysis again and compare that basically pre versus post construction. We also try to look at the actual driveway access because capacity is important, volume is important, but if this driveway doesn't work efficiently and safely, meaning is there enough sight distance in each direction for a vehicle to turn left into the driveway and turn right and left out of the driveway? That is very important. It's paramount that we make sure that the vehicles entering and leaving the site are safe, as well as not causing any undue harm to the passing motoring traffic that goes by the site.
What did your study conclude with respect to these proposed driveway locations?
From a capacity standpoint, we do operate at good levels of service. When I refer to levels of service, is how you grade an intersection, much like you're graded in school from an A being the best grade to an F. The driveway will work adequately in terms of levels of service. The sight distance there, as you know, we were talking about the southern access being moved. That's an improvement because that gets that driveway out of the queuing area and improves the sight distance. For the proposed access to the northern parcel, it moves the driveway as far north as we can. There's adequate sight distance because they're not really looking at stacked vehicles. So the vehicles turning in, leaving the site can have adequate sight distance looking to the south. They can see vehicles, coming from the south. And from the north, there's adequate sight distance. So therefore, the conclusions of the study are that this will be a safe and efficient access, as located from that location, is 165 feet from the intersection, and also from a capacity standpoint.
Does the conclude that this proposed driveway would have any negative impact on the operations of the intersection?
It concludes that it will not.
And environmental impact to the
In my opinion, and based on the results of the study, no.
you answered this in your description, but am I also correct that both of these driveway locations will ultimately be subject to review and approval?
That is correct.
That's all I have right now in terms of direct testimony. Trying to answer any questions.
Any of the members have a question for those that have testified? Yes, sir, go ahead.
Driveway of the north will be a driveway that takes part of the direction or that will get there.
Yes, right now, we are proposing that this driveway is a full movement driveway. Vehicles would then therefore be able to turn right or left out as well as right and left in. Again, ultimately subject to PennDOT's jurisdiction. But what our study has shown is that there are one or two moments in time during the day where a vehicle trying to make a left out may have to wait. They can't simply get into that traffic. But those moments in time last for a very short period of time. The queue here on Market Street does clear, that a vehicle exiting left can get into that traffic flow without any significant delay. And that delay, if any, only causes backup into our site. It does not cause any problems with Market Street or any obstructions in the traffic. But again, PennDOT will ultimately tell us whether or not it's acceptable to have that left-hand turn.
Mr. Richardson. So what exactly was the rating that your company gave, A to F?
The level service?
Yeah, you
Yeah, let me have it.
You said there was a rating?
Yeah, it's
but I
what we
don't
call
think I-
level of service.
Yeah, level of service
Uh,
rating.
For the driveway itself, it is a level of service B,
North driveway?
the northern driveway, right?
Yeah. And what was the downgrade from an A to B?
From,
What took it from an A to a B?
well, it was already, the existing levels of service, well, you're comparing it, you're not comparing it to pre versus post for that particular intersection because it doesn't exist today.
Right.
So level of service is B is usually around 11 seconds of delay on average. That is a good level of service.
You're
PennDOT
you're
accepts-
talking about traffic flow?
Yes, it's basically what you're looking at when your levels of service for an unsignalized intersection is based on the delay.
Okay.
You're sitting there waiting. How
I
long
got
does it take me to get out
I
here?
got you.
Okay. So, and it's usually there's some factors such as your nearby signals creating gaps in traffic. What the analysis that we conducted showed that a level of service B would be provided to the drivers that are being exiting out a right turn or a left turn. So therefore, that is considered to be in these days and days and age, if you were to go up on Route 202 and 322 up in Concord, those levels of service are probably E's and F's.
I got you.
Yeah, so this is what
So
we,
it's a time, it's a rating based on seconds,
it is.
or it's a rating based on time.
Yes, it is.
Okay, I
Correct.
gotcha. I didn't know if it had to do with something that you seen that was traffic pattern, traffic backup. I wasn't aware that it was.
Yeah, it's a delay
A delay rating.
Yeah, it's a delay based on time that, on average, that it takes to get out of the driveway.
got
And it's also
Okay.
important to note, in our study, we typically look at the two highest peak hours, meaning the commuter peak in the morning
Mhm.
and the commuter peak in the evening, when people are going to and coming home from work. The level of service B working during the highest volume of traffic on 452 on Market is, a level of service B is really good in my viewpoint. I mean, I wish I could have Bs on all of my jobs, but the driveway itself, that's something that your traffic engineer has looked at and has agreed with our findings, as well as, again, Mr. Lewis has mentioned, PennDOT's going to review the study thoroughly and make sure that our conclusions are accurate.
Yep, thank you. How about, is this just motor vehicle traffic? Is this tractor trailer, sizes of vehicles that are going to be using this entranceway?
Yeah, we've designed the site. We don't have a tenant yet. So we don't know the exact extent of tractor trailer traffic. But the site is designed to accommodate tractor trailer traffic. Just as our site that exists today accommodates tractor trailer traffic, that one doesn't take a whole lot of trucks. And we anticipate the same here with only a 25,000 roughly square foot building. We aren't anticipating a lot of truck traffic here, but it has been designed to accommodate that kind
And is it,
of. Oh, I'm sorry.
thank you, and is it wide enough to accommodate two tractor trailers, one leaving and one entering?
Yes, the design is so that one can be entering and one exiting at the same time, the width as well as the turning radius.
Okay.
And those tractor trailers are, and Mr. Richardson, those tractor trailers are factored into that traffic study. When they do their analysis, they must account for that because tractor trailers take a little longer to get in and out. So that gets factored into their design criteria.
Yeah, my only fear for something like that would be a tractor trailer trying to get out, tractor trailer traveling northbound on Market. Because that intersection right there, it gets pretty rough when 452 starts stacking up south of 322. That traffic light does get affected.
Yeah, and what's important, it's a very valid point. You don't want a truck exiting to go north to somehow impede this traffic flow, by either not being able to make the turn or have this turning radius here on this corner is
Right.
designed so that when the truck is here, that truck doesn't have to go into oncoming traffic to make that turn. We all see that, particularly in older sites where they just can't make a turn, they're gonna jump a curb, or they just go out into the opposing traffic. This site driveway will be designed in a manner that allows it to stay within its designated travel lane, so we can do that operation smoothly. And we're gonna have to back in, make the turn again. We're also lucky that, there is that additional leeway if that, if you have a bad tractor trailer. Very rare, they're pretty darn accomplished drivers, but there is that additional turning lane here, that in all likelihood, if his cab had to exceed the lane, he could go into the turning lane. He's not gonna affect the through traffic on Market Street.
Right.
But because this is a new driveway design, you can see how wide this growth of this driveway is. To make sure that same thing happens coming in, this tractor trailer coming into the site
Mhm.
doesn't have to
Wait.
swing that turn so wide.
Wait, yeah, we don't want him waiting to be able to make a right-hand turn. Will that leaving tractor trailer be allowed to make a left-hand turn there once PennDOT does their study? Is there a chance that they might say, hey, we kind of really don't want any tractor trailers exiting, making lefts? Because that would be your worst-case scenario.
It's always possible that PennDOT decides that. PennDOT has the authority ultimately to make that decision. PennDOT actually has the authority to regulate any movement out of your access. They can't say you can't driveway, but they have the ability to make it right in, right out. They have the ability to buy lefts in or lefts out. So ultimately, that would be up to PennDOT. PennDOT will have our traffic analysis. Township's traffic engineer will participate in those discussions, and ultimately PennDOT will decide. Our analysis currently shows that, except for the fact that every once in a while a truck may have to wait a little bit to make that turn, that there are sufficient gaps, even in the peak hour. The truck's not likely to be there at a peak hour; they're likely to be an off hour. That the truck can make that movement safely and efficiently. And ultimately, that's
One more question.
Thank you.
On your lower driveway, I noticed the width is different. 32 feet width on the upper and lower. So that makes it a problem for traffic.
I'm going to leave that one to you.
I believe the driveway, the upper driveway was widened, partly because it has such a narrow throat leading into the site, so that there's, less room for the trucks to maneuver on the site. The lower driveway is kept at 30 feet. That's the township requirement. We would be open to widening that if that was needed as the project goes forward.
Lower driveway don't have that easement as
We have that middle turn here.
There's-
Don't really have here.
So if you have trucks coming out here going left or right.
Yeah, and we can look at that as a part of the land development process going forward, if it's necessary to widen that. But in terms of what we're before you tonight, for the location of the driveway, I don't think that has bearing on that decision. But we could certainly, if the township engineer looks at that and would request that to be wider, that's certainly something we can look at.
We all live close to this location. During rush hour, that backs up past that intersection, going south. And I would love to see no left turn between the hours of 4 and 7. And that may help you with PennDOT.
Mr. Chairman, are you
I'm
referring to
saying that
the lower access
I'm saying leaving your property.
from either access, point,
No, top.
from the northern access point? And would that be right?
If you have a tractor trailer that's trying to pull out there and it's rush hour, it's going to block both lanes. The road will be blocked.
As long as your request, sir, is that no tractor trailers may turn left between 4 and 7. We don't have any objection to that. Obviously, we have, employees that want to leave at 5 o'clock may need to go make a left-hand turn in a passenger vehicle, but we don't have any problems with recommending that PennDOT have us install a sign that, includes tractor trailers turning left during that peak period.
So Counselor, your client would stipulate to a special condition or
We would.
requirement that would prohibit tractor trailers to make a left-hand turn out of that driveway between the hours of 4 PM and 7.
That is acceptable to us, yes.
I don't think they're gonna have a problem getting out there.
Yeah, the existing access point, which is further north, the bigger, and part of what you heard tonight in the testimony, the only existing, quote, issue with that driveway is people trying to make the left in and possibly affecting the intersection. And that's why we were asked to actually move it so that now if somebody wants to make a left in, they're so much further from the intersection that they're not causing a problem. The movements out have not been an issue from that existing facility.
Charlie, do you want anything on behalf of the township? So you're, all right, so you're asking for an 85-foot variance?
Yes.
From what our ordinance says?
That's correct. The ordinance requires 250 feet and our access is currently proposed at 165.
Yeah, I got one more thing. So that Newark driveway, you said you went as far north as you possibly could, not to interfere with the next property or the property line or.
Correct. You know, we have to have separation between our driveway and existing driveway to the north. So we bumped it as close to our property line as we can.
Okay.
Maximize that separation.
Thank you.
Short recess, we'll be right back.
Thank you very much. Yes, please. Can we admit applicants exhibits A through A8? Thank you. Thank you very much.
back on.
Counsel, would you be kind enough to give us a little argument on hardship, if you would, please?
I would be glad to.
Thank you.
So the municipality's planning code provides criteria for the grant of a variance. As I'm sure the board is aware, the rigid criteria in the MPC were lessened by court decisions, most notably one referred to as Hertzberg. And in Hertzberg, it states that when you are seeking dimensional relief, that the zoning hearing board is permitted to consider additional factors beyond just the strict 7 criteria, including hardship. Hardship, generally speaking, has to be a condition of the property that renders it impossible to comply with the requirement at issue. Here, and one of the noted potential conditions of the property is irregular shape. Here, as you heard this evening, we have a highly irregularly shaped piece of ground. That as a result of that irregular shape, the only way that the remaining 3 acres of undeveloped ground can actually be accessed is by a secondary access to Market Street. Due to the configuration along Market Street, we cannot achieve the ordinance required 250 feet of separation from the intersection with Meeting House. One of the other criteria for the grant of a variance, and particularly a dimensional variance, is that you have minimized the extent of the relief. I think there was a very appropriate question asked this evening. And what you heard in response is that we have in fact minimized the relief by maximizing the separation between the intersection and the proposed driveway. One of the other criteria is that we did not create the condition. We did not create the irregular shape of our property here, nor did we create where the intersection of Meeting House meets our property, and thus the inability to meet that 250-foot separation. The final criteria set forth in the MPC is that the proposed relief, if granted, would not have a detrimental impact on the public health, safety, and welfare. And I think what you heard this evening is not only will the northern access not have any detrimental impact on the public health, safety, and welfare or traffic operations, but that in conjunction with providing this new driveway, we're actually improving traffic conditions at the existing access by moving that further south.
And just for the record, your applicant, he offered to stipulate to having no left turn between the hours of 4 and 7 p.m. out of the northern driveway. Is that correct? For tractor
For
trailers.
tractor trailers, yes, sir.
Another question I'd ask is, the board would be inclined to vote on your application.
And I've indicated this is attorney for applicant.
For anybody in the audience for or against this application? Want to speak? Seeing none? Okay, thank you. Is there anybody online? Nope, thank you, Jeff.
All right, we'd like to call the question, Mr. Chairman, and members of the board. How do you vote?
With the stipulation,
Yes,
approve.
John? All right, unanimous. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Nice job. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Anyone else for anything for the township right now? Or for the zoning hearing board? Nope, seeing none, closed.
Have a great night.
Yes.